Shalom, brothers and sisters, and once again, this is Shabar Judah Israel, bringing you another lesson concerning Solid Foundation Israelite Academy. The Solid Foundation Israelite Academy, brothers and sisters, edifying you guys one at a time. Let's see. We're gonna go over Jude. Okay, this is Jude, and the title to this lesson would be concerning. We're gonna have to clear up Jude 1 and 6. So this is Jude 1 and 6. We'll talk about Jude 1 and 6. Before we get into Jude 1 and 6, brothers and sisters, we want to give all praise and glorification and due honor to Yahweh by Hashem, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, double honors to the elders and the apostles, and salutations to the Akim that's preaching the truth in sincerity. So this is Jude 1 and 6. Once again, Jude 1 and 6. Okay. On the behalf of Solid Foundation Israelite Academy. In the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved into everlasting chains, on the darkness and to the judgment of the great day. Now, these are not talking about fallen angels in Jude 1 and 6. A lot of you have been misled, miseducated, and have misunderstood Jude 1 and 6. It says the angels which kept not their first estate. Now we need to go into tools, and we need to look into the interlinear concerning angels. Now angels in the Greek, however, will be played
Strong's G32, angelos. Angelos.
So angelos is angels in Greek. Okay, that's how you would say angels. And it's in the Greek definition. In the Greek dictionary, the definition angelos in 32. So we are going into angelos. It says angels 179 times in the Bible, and messenger at 7 times. Now it says a messenger, envoy, one who is sent, an angel, a messenger from God. So an angel is a messenger, one who delivers a godly message. Okay. All right, so that's angels, messengers. So we can go back and we can see in Jude 1 and 6, it says the angels which kept not their first estate, the messengers which kept not their first estate. We're going to break this verse down. Now, the messengers which are angels, who were those messengers or angels? A lot of you have been miseducated on believing that the angels pursuing in Jude 1 and 6 was such as this. These images such as this have screwed your minds out of proportion. You brothers and sisters, you have been totally screwed by the misinformation concerning these images, because we know that an image speaks 1,000 words. And this is what have been given to you under Christianity. Now, Christianity pushes the fallen angel doctrine. However, Jude 1 and 6, concerning angels which kept not their first estate, is not in reference to this, what you see right here. Okay, there was no angels such as you will see right here, falling from the earth, falling from the heavens and landing to the earth. This is total bull. Okay, it's nonsense. It's unnecessary, brothers and sisters. These are just several pictures of fallen angels, supposedly, that came down to earth and they had intercourse with daughters of man. This is total madness. And after this lesson, hopefully you will see, brothers and sisters, this is what you have been led to believe, pursuing Jude 1 and 6. The angels which kept not their first estate. The angels supposedly came down to earth, and they did what? They supposedly married the daughters of man, took upon the daughters of man as wives. They had sexual relations with the daughters of man. This is what you are taught in Christianity. So hopefully we'll clear this up so you can see the truth by the end of this lesson. Now, like I say, I'm just scrolling down through several images concerning fallen angels to just give you kind of an idea of what they push in the Christian community. Because pursuing Jude 1 and 6, the angels were kept not their first estate. This is not talking about what you see before you, brothers and sisters. So hopefully you have pretty much, you don't see a lot of displays concerning fallen angels. But it's not that. Jude 1 and 6 is not talking about that. Jude 1 and 6, once again, is not talking about fallen angels like such as you see right here. So what is it talking about? What is it? If it's not this, if it's not this, then what is it? If it's not fallen angels coming down, then what is it? Well, say no more because we're about to answer your questions. So let's go back to Jude 1 and 6. It says the angels which kept not their first estate. Now let me break this down to you, brothers and sisters. Pay close attention because, like I said, I think I did this before, but I'm gonna do it again for you, brothers and sisters that may have been puzzled concerning Jude 1 and 6. The messengers which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. Okay. Now we have to deal with what was their first estate, because it says some messengers did not keep their first estate. Now, what is their first estate? We need to understand. We need to go in the interlinear to break down this. Now, the first estate. This is how it would be pronounced in G 746, first estate.
Strong's G 746. Arche. Arche.
Okay, it says arche. Arche. Now we're going into first estate, because that's what we do. The beginning, the origin, the person or thing that commences, the first person or thing in a series, the leader. Right here in the third definition, it says that by which anything begins to be, the origin, the active cause. All right, then it says in 4, it says the extremity of a thing, of the corners of a sail. 5, as you will see, it says the first place, principality, rule, magistracy. And then second it says of angels and demons. Now what we want to go with concerning first estate, the outline biblical usage, we're going to go with the beginning, the origin. Okay. We're going to go with that by which anything begins to be, the origin. So they didn't keep their in the beginning, basically their first estate pursuant to origin, the beginning. They left their first estate. They left in the beginning something. And we're going to go over that first estate. Now, what was that first estate in the beginning? Because all this explaining is in Jude 1 and 6. What it's trying to say is the angels kept not their first estate. This is in relations to interracial marriage. Okay, in the beginning of time, you had 3 categories of man. Okay, 3 categories of man. So, brothers and sisters, to get a good understanding, in the beginning of time, during the time of Eden, okay, Eden is the earth, and you can just say during the beginning of time in the Garden of Eden, there was not known nations in the ancient world when in the beginning of time, because it says their first estate, right? So when we look at Jude 1 and 6, their first estate. Now we looked at first estate in the beginning. It speaks of the first estate being in the beginning, origin. Now we seen that, brothers and sisters. I mean, if you want us to go back in it again, we'll show you. Once again.
Strong's G 746. Arche.
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 Arche. 746. And it just says the beginning, the origin. So it takes you back to the beginning. It takes you back to the beginning of time. It takes you back what happens in the beginning. It takes you back to the first estate, okay, which is the origin, okay, in the beginning. as we saw that, G746, arche in the Greek. It says the origin, the beginning. Now, however, when you read the book of Genesis, okay, we're going to duplicate this and we'll go into Genesis, okay? Matter of fact, I'll type in Genesis and we'll go into Genesis to the beginning. Okay, so Genesis 1:1, it says in the beginning. That goes back to Jude 1:6, pursuant to first estate, arche in the Greek. And it says the origin, the beginning. So the first estate means the beginning of time, the origin of time. Okay, which takes you right here in the beginning. That's the origin. So Jude 1:6 is in reference dealing with the first estate. That takes you back to the book of Genesis, dealing with the beginning. Okay. Now, in the book of Genesis, we know it speaks about nations in the beginning of time, nations in the earth that were established. And these nations came from 18 progenitors. So in the beginning, the first estate, the origin, there were, before there was such thing as nations, back in Genesis, the origin in the beginning, there was known as 3 categories of man. So all these nations today in the earth, in the beginning, okay, in the beginning, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, which goes back to Jude 1:6, the first estate. In the beginning, there were known as, instead of table of nations, instead of nations in the beginning, all these nations of people today was sectioned into 3 categories of men. And you had sons of God in the beginning, which are the Israelites today, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the descendants of Jacob. They were known as the sons of God in the beginning of time. And the second category of man was known as sons of men, which are the modern day Gentile heathens today in the earth. Nations that are not descendants of Jacob today, which are known as Gentiles and heathens. Back in the beginning, the origin of time, the first estate, they was known as sons of man. And the last of the last of the 3 categories of man was known as sons of the wicked, which is the so-called white man today, the descendants of Esau, whose name was changed to Edom. So these are all the table of nations today. When you look at basically the table of nations right here, before there was any such thing as nations in the earth, in the beginning of time, they were sectioned into 3 categories of man: sons of God, sons of man, sons of wicked. Okay? You need to understand that, because we're dealing with the beginning of time. We are dealing with the origin of time. We are dealing with Jude 1:6. We are dealing with the first estate. We are dealing with the first estate pursuant to the origin, the beginning, which takes you back, to Genesis. Okay? Which takes you back. Now, when you look in Genesis 1:1, because the book of Genesis speaks about nations that was in the beginning, 18 progenitors that formed nations. Okay, and it started with these 18 men. Okay, it started with Jacob, Esau, Elam, Asher. Because when you break these down, Israel, it started with Jacob, Edom, Elam, Assyria, Syria, Arabs. Okay, it started with these 3 categories of man, which today is known as table of nations. So I just want you to see. Okay, so you can say these table of nations, before there was any such thing as nations, like I stated, I'm just trying to make sure you're getting it. back in the day was known as 3 categories of man. These 3 categories of man would be modern day table of nations today. These nations came out of 18 progenitors. 18 progenitors created 18 nationality of people. Where did that start pursuing the Jude 1 and 6? The first estate. Where did that start? In the beginning. Genesis 1 and 1. In the beginning. Okay, so we need to understand that, because what we're going to show you in the beginning, we're going to give you biblical, historical proof to show you in the first estate there were messengers such as angels which did something in the beginning of time. And they left their first estate and they left their own habitation. Now, these angels, these messengers, pursuing the Jude 1 and 6, which kept not their first estate and left their own habitation, would be classified back during that time in the origin, in the beginning, as sons of God. The sons of God, which would be the modern day Israelites. The sons of God, okay, was known as the messengers of the Most High. The sons of God was known as the messengers of the Most High. Back then, these angels, these messengers, back then, these angels, the reason why they were called sons of God, because they were the closest to the Most High, because they was the closest ones on earth, basically, that was chosen to be a righteous lineage. So they was known as sons of God, messengers of the Most High, which takes you back to angelos, angels. And they did not keep their first estate, because this I'm going to show you how, because they left their own habitation. Now, what is a habitation dealing with Jude 1 and 6? We have to get all the meat off the bone. Now, what is the habitation that they left?
Strong's G 3613, Oiketerion. Oiketerion.
Archeterion. Archeterion, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that right. And that's Greek 3613, or some may say 3,613. Now, what is habitation? Archeterion. Now, let's see what that is in the Greek. Let's see what it means. It says house, one time, habitation, one time. It says dwelling place, habitation of the body as a dwelling place for the spirit. Okay, dwelling place. Okay, your dwelling place, your house, your home, your habitation. Okay, now, y'all see that. Okay, archeterion, which is Greek 3613, says that these messengers, which in referral to angels, which is sons of God in the beginning, they left outside of home. They left their habitation. They didn't stay within home. To leave outside of home is to basically, what they would call it today, to leave your first estate, that's to leave outside of home, to leave your habitation, it's called interracial marriage. That's what happened, because all this is in referral to is Genesis chapter 6. This is Genesis chapter 6. That's what Jude 1 and 6 is in relations to. Genesis chapter 6. This is what it talks about. It says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, the men that was beginning to multiply on the face of the earth back in that time was known as sons of man, which were the Gentiles and the heathens. The Gentiles and the heathens today was sons of man back then. They did work pursuing the Genesis 6 and 1. They began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them. So the daughters that these men, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. This is in reference to the sons of man. The sons of man and their daughters which is modern day Gentiles and heathens today. Okay, they was known as sons of man back then, as you can see. And it even tells you, it says in Genesis 6 and 1, it came to pass when men began to multiply. That's in reference to sons of man, which is modern day Gentiles and heathens today. They began to multiply, okay, and daughters were born to them. Now Genesis 6 and 2 is in relations to Jude 1 and 6. Okay, Genesis 6 and 2. That the sons of God saw the daughters of man. The daughters of these men back then was known as the second category of man, which is sons of man. This talking about right here, the daughters that was born to these men would be in the second category, which would be Gentile heathens. Okay, when you go back, it says that Genesis 6 and 2, the sons of God. Who are the sons of God back then? The Israelites today, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. They were known as sons of God before they took upon the title Israel. Okay, Israel, Jacob was not born during the beginning of time back then, but Jacob would later on come on the scene, and Jacob's name will be changed to Israel. Okay, this was before Jacob. So before Jacob was born, before we got that name Israelites, we were known as sons of God. Okay, what did we do? The sons of God started having dealings with the sons of man. And this is the first interracial marriage instituted in Genesis chapter 6. The sons of God saw the daughters of man. Okay, the sons of God, okay, right here on the top, sons of God saw the sons of man, Gentiles and heathens. Okay, and they did what? They saw the sons of God saw the daughters of man. They were fair. Basically, they looked very beautiful. They was comely. And they took them wives of which they chose. So when the sons of God, right here, the Israelites today, when they took the sons of men, daughters, or wives whom they chose, they left their first estate. That's what it's talking about, pursuing Jude 1 and 6. They did not stay within their own nation. That's what it's talking about. To leave your first estate, to leave your own habitation right here, is to marry women outside of your nation. That's all it's talking about. And they did that. That's basically in Genesis chapter 6. That is the first interracial marriage instituted in the Bible. That's the first account of interracial marriage throughout the whole Bible. This is when it took place. Okay, and when they did that, when they took them wives of all which they chose, when the sons of God, the modern day Israelites, took the sons of man daughters as wives whom they chose, they did what? They left their own habitation. They married outside of their nation, man. I told you in the beginning of time, before it was Israel, it was known as sons of God. That's all Jude 1 and 6 is in reference to. Genesis 6 and 2. Okay, now let me give you several other verses and scriptures on that. This is Ezra, not Esdras, but Ezra. Okay, Ezra's chapter 10 verse 9 is in relations to Jude 1 and 6. The sons of God, the angels, the messengers, which did not keep their first estate, but they left their own habitation because they started having interracial marriages with other nations of people. This is in relations to Jude 1 and 6. This is a precept. Ezra chapter 10 verse 9. Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together. Now this is talking about the southern kingdom of Israel. Judah and Benjamin, the southern kingdom of Israel. They gathered themselves together into Jerusalem within 3 days. And it was the 9th month. Now the 9th month today would be counted as November. Novum. Goes back to the Latin Novum, 9. Okay. And we know Spanish came from the Latin, so that would be Nueve, the 9th month, which is today November. So back then in Ezra chapter 10 verse 9, the southern kingdom of Israel, the Judites and the Benjamites, Judah is the so-called Negroes today, you Benjamites is the West Indies today, Jamaicans. They gathered themselves together into Jerusalem within 3 days, and it was November, the 9th month. It says on the 20th day of the month. So this was November 20th back then concerning Ezra 10 and 9. And all the people sat in the street of the house of God, trembling because of this matter, because of what matter. We're going to show you. We're going to read on down. So let's go to Ezra 10 and 10, okay? Ezra 10 and 10. And Ezra the priest, Ezra was a Jew. Ezra the priest stood up and he said unto these Jews, okay, which are you modern day Negroes today, you West Indies, Jamaicans, and Haitians today, the Southern Kingdom. Ezra said unto you back then, he said, you have transgressed and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel. So what was Ezra so upset about during his time? Because we know during the time of Ezra, it was the Persian Mede captivity. Why was Ezra so upset? Why was the priest so upset and he stood up to get on these Jews, to get on Judah and Benjamin and Levi? You modern day blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. You modern day blacks primarily concerning Judah. Why was Ezra the priest mad? Let's see. He said, you have transgressed. You have taken strange wives. This is in reference to Jude 1 and 6. When the messengers, back then, which was counted as the sons of God, modern day Israelites today, this is in reference when they left their own habitation. To leave your own habitation is to mingle your holy seed with another Gentile nation, a heathen nation. Okay, back to Ezra 10 and 10. The Jews took strange wives. Now, what is a strange wife? A strange wife is a woman from another nation. Okay, a woman that is not from the nation of Israel today. A woman that would be counted today in the table of nations. Any woman from 2 to 18 that would be counted as a strange woman because she's not of the holy seed. She's not from the chosen nation of Israel. Back then, before Israel came on the scene, before Jacob came on the scene, the chosen people was known as the sons of God. The sons of God did what? It tells you in Genesis chapter 6 verse 2 that the sons of God took the daughters of men. So what is that? Interracial marriage. That's all it's talking about pursuing Jude 1 and 6. These angels. That's not talking about angels which fell from heaven. That's not talking about angels that came down to have sexual relations with the daughters of man. That's not talking about that. That is everything in Ezra 10 and 10. How the Jews took strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel. Ezra 10 verse 11. Now therefore make confession unto the Lord Yahweh, God of your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wife. Because that is offense. That's a capital offense for an Israelite to take upon another woman from a Gentile or heathen nation. You are not to indulge in interracial marriage. God does not like when you mingle the holy seed among other wicked nations of people. And this is the account dealing with Jude 1 and 6. It takes you back to Genesis 6 and 2. When the sons of God saw the daughters of man, and they took them who they chose. That's the first interracial marriage instituted in that chapter. That's when interracial marriage was first established in Genesis the 6th chapter, man. It don't have anything about fallen angels, don't have anything to do about fallen angels falling from the heavens and taking upon daughters of man. The so-called white man have bamboozled and gave you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans that damn lie. Ezra 10 and 11. Now therefore make confession unto the Lord God of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wives. We're going to read down to verse 19. And then all the congregation answered and said with a loud voice, as thou hast said, so we must do. Ezra 10 and 13. Not Ezra 10. I just want y'all to, it's Ezra in the King James. Ezra, not Ezra's. Ezra. Ezra 10 and 13. But the people are many, and it is a time of much rain, and we are not able to stand without. Neither is this a work of one day or two, for we are many that have transgressed in this thing. Because Ezra chapter 10 is dealing with Jews taking upon strange wives from other nations. Ezra 10 and 14. Let now all rulers of all the congregation stand, and let all them which have taken strange wives, women from other nations, in our cities come at the appointed times, and with them the elders of every city and the judges thereof, until the furious wrath of God. for this matter be turned from us. See, that caused the Most High to become fierce and wrath. That caused, when you interracial, when you marry outside of your nation, that caused the Most High to become furious. It caused him to become enraged. Okay, and that's why he tells you on the account of Genesis 6:2 that he put stipulation on men's lives for taking the daughters of man. Okay, Ezra 10:15. Only Jonathan, the son of Ashashel, and Jahaziah, the son of Tikvah, were employed about this matter, and Meshullam and Shabbathiah and the Levite helped them. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names correctly, but take the mistakes for love. Ezra 10:16. Ezra. I don't know why I say Ezra. Ezra's is the same for Ezra, but we're not in the apocryphal books dealing with Ezra's. We're dealing with Ezra. I don't know why I keep saying Ezra's, but Ezra's is Ezra. But we're dealing with Ezra in the King James. 10:16. And the children of the captivity did so. The children of the captivity in the Persian Mede captivity, the nation of Israel. The Jews was slaves under the Persians, and they was known as children of the captivity. And Ezra the priest were certain chief of the fathers after the house of their fathers, and all of them by the names were separated and sat down in the first day of the 10th month. The 10th month is December today, to examine the matter. Now Ezra 10:17, and they made an end with all the men that have taken strange wives by that first day of the first month. We're going all the way down. So this is on account Ezra chapter 10. Ezra chapter 10 about Jews taking strange wives. Same thing, pursuing the Jude 1 and 6, y'all. I'm just trying to make a point here. We're gonna read to the 19th verse, and we'll go to another verse concerning Jude 1 and 6. Ezra 10:18. And among the sons of the priests there were found that had taken strange wives, namely of sons of Jeshua, the son of Jozadak, and his brethren Masiah and Eleazar and Jarib and Gadaliah. This is the last verse pursuing Ezra chapter 10. Ezra chapter 10. And they gave their hands that they would put away their wives. And being guilty, they offer a ram of the flock for their trespass. So this is a capital offense in the eyes of God. This is a trespass to take upon strange wives that are not from your nation. Okay, dealing with the table of nations today, if you are an Israelite, you are not to trespass and take strange wives from other nations of people. You're not to deal with white woman, East Indian woman, Assyrian woman, Arab woman, Chinese woman, Japanese woman, Ethiopian woman, Egyptian woman, North African woman, South African woman. You're not to deal with Turkish, Russian, Greek, Grecian woman, German woman, and so forth. If the woman is not of Negroid, Indian, Hispanic ancestry, you are not to deal with them, because if you're Israelite, you're supposed to marry within your nation. You're supposed to keep the holy seed within your nation. But what happened in the origin of time? What happened pursuing Jude 1 and 6? What happened when in the first estate, beginning with the origin, which takes you back to Genesis? What happened pursuing Genesis 6 chapter? This is the first interracial marriage instituted when the sons of God, which are the modern day Israelites back then, they was known as sons of God, took the daughters of man, Gentiles and heathenistic nations, and took wives who they chose. That's all it is talking about. So the sons of God, which are you modern day Israelites, you didn't keep your first estate. You would have done that, and you would have stayed within your habitation if you wouldn't have started intermingling with other nations and mixing the holy seed among heathens. But you did that in the beginning of time, pursuing the Genesis chapter 6. So these sons of God are not angels, man. These sons of God was the Sethites, that righteous lineage that came from Seth bloodline, which are known as the modern day Israelites back then, that was called sons of God. Don't have any damn thing to do with fallen angels. Because if you want to pursue, and if you want to still justify, and you still want to assert and support that these sons of God were angels, you want to say the sons of God was angels, I'm going to show you in the Bible that he never called angels his son. How about that? This is Hebrews chapter 1 verse 5. Now, this is talking about how Yahushua, who the world called Jesus Christ, is exalted above the angels. Now, we're going to read Hebrews 1 and 4. Being made so much better than the angels. Who is this in reference to? Yahushua, the Son of God, who they call Jesus today. Being made so much better than the angels, as he had by inheritance obtained a more excellent name than they. Hebrew 1 and 5. For into which of the angels said he at any time, thou art my son. So he never called the angels his son. He never called the angels. He never called the angels his son. If you want to take Jude 1 and 6 in reference to fallen angels having sex with daughters of man, Hebrews 1 and 5 tells you that he never called these angels his sons. Okay? He never did that. So these fallen angels was never called sons of the Most High. Do you understand, people? These fallen angels were never called sons of the Most High. And let me mind you of this. They were not pale-skinned white people. Ezekiel, the first chapter, speaks of angels being burnished brass, black people. So they were not white as well. Just throwing that out as an extra. So supposedly these fallen angels that the Christian society preach all these damn lies and want to put out to the masses of the people, that fallen angels came to earth to stick their rods in the daughters of man, to skeet sperm in the daughters of man, and impregnate daughters of man. That's a damn lie, man. Okay? Because this white man has a carnal ass mind. He the only type of person to think of something such of a thing. Come up with a false ass doctrine about fallen angels coming to earth, sticking their rods in woman's vagina, impregnating woman. Angels don't need to reproduce. Angels don't need to procreate. They are infinite power, man. Okay? So Hebrew 1 and 5 says that for which unto the angels he said at any time, thou art my son. He never called the angels his son. He never said unto thee, this day I have begotten thee. The only people that he called his son was the children of Israel, and he called Yahushua, who the world called Jesus Christ. But he never said to angels, thou at any time thou art my son, and I have begotten thee. He never told the angels, I will be a father, and he shall be my son. He never told the angels that they were his son. So question is, who are the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2, man? They were known back then as the Israelites before they took upon the name of Israel. Okay? They was known as the sons of God. If you want to still assert that the sons of God was fallen angels, he told you in Hebrew chapter 1 verse 5 that he never called angels at any time his son, man. Do you understand? And for the record, let's go to Matthew the 22nd chapter, because angels don't marry, man. This is the account of Matthew the 22nd chapter, Matthew 22. And we'll go into how the Sadducees see you right here in Matthew 22 and 23. The Sadducees doesn't believe in the resurrection. The Sadducees, they only believe that YOLO, you only live once. They don't believe in another life to come. The Pharisees did, but the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. So they tried to trap Yahushua up with some cunning device saying that they asked him. And this is on the behalf of Matthew the 22nd chapter. So this is in reference. I just want to show you that angels don't marry. If you want to assume that fallen angels came down and popped women on the earth and impregnated women. Matthew 22nd chapter 23. The same day came unto him the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection. See, they don't believe in regeneration. Matthew 22 and 24 saying, Master Moses said, if a man die having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed into his brother. Okay. Right? Pursuant to the law. Because if a man died and didn't have no children, didn't leave no children behind from this particular woman, then his brother should take upon the woman and raise up seed for his dead brother. Okay, Matthew 22 and 25. Now there was with us 7 brethren, okay, and the first, when he had married a wife, deceased, having no issue, and left his wife and to his brothers. Likewise the second also, and the third, and to the 7th. Now basically, so to speak, it says, last but not least, the woman died also. Matthew 22:27. Matthew 22:28. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. So they was trying to trap Yahushua up with a cunning device, saying that, when a man die, if he married to this particular woman, when he die and he doesn't leave seed behind, then his brother shall take upon the woman to rise up seed for his brother. Okay, all his brothers, he had 7 brothers. They took upon the woman and didn't rise up seed. Okay, for his brother. Last but not least, the woman died. So they tell Yahushua in Matthew, the 22nd chapter, 28 verse, in the resurrection, if you claiming a resurrection, if you believe in the resurrection, and you want to say resurrection is so legit, they said, in the resurrection, well, you tell me this, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. This is what Yahushua told those stupid ass Sadducees, man. Matthew 22 and 29. Yahushua answered and said to them, you do err. Not knowing the scriptures. You don't know a goddamn thing about the scriptures, man. Okay? Just like half of you brothers out here that want to stick to Jude 1 and 6 and say fallen angels came down and shot sperm in the daughters of man and impregnated the daughters of man. You err not knowing the scriptures. You don't have no understanding because the Most High haven't put the spirit of understanding on you niggas, and you err not knowing the scriptures, man. But you want to go out and preach this fallen angel nonsense, this fallen angel bullshit. How you going to be a Hebrew Israelite and you still want to cleave on to the Christian residuals and bring this shit in the Hebrew community? You still a Christian if you believe in the fallen angel doctrine, man. Okay? Matthew 22 and 29. And Yahushua said unto them, you err not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of God. Matthew 22 and 30. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given into marriage, man. Pay close attention because I'm highlighting this. Matthew 22 and 30. For in the resurrection they neither marry. Because when you die, you become a spirit. You become infinite power. All we are is power. The spirit is infinite power, man. Pure energy. So when the spirit leaves the body, when the spirit leaves this temple, when this tent is torn down and the spirit is evacuated from this body, it says that you become as an angel in the heavens, man. And Yahushua stated in Matthew 22 and 30 that they neither marry nor given into marriage, but they are as the angels of God in heaven. So Matthew 22 and 30 is a cold cut to you brothers and sisters that want to pursue Jude 1 and 6 to fallen angels having sex with woman, popping woman, impregnating woman, and woman having children, woman having half humanistic celestial beings. That's a cold cut. Matthew 22 and 30 says the angels doesn't marry. So when we go back to Genesis chapter 6 and verse 2, what the hell is going on in Genesis chapter 6 verse 2? When we showed you in Hebrews chapter 1 verse 5 that he never called the angels his son, well, who are the sons of God here? When we just showed you in Matthew 22 verse 30 that the sons of God doesn't marry. The angel doesn't marry. The angel doesn't marry, pursuing Matthew 22 and 30. The angel doesn't marry. Hebrews 1 and 5. The angels he never called his son. So what's going on with Genesis 6 and 2? The sons of God was known as the modern day Israelites today, bro. And they took the daughters of the sons of man, Gentiles and heathens. That's all it's saying, interracial marriage. And for that, the Most High said that my spirit shall not always strive with man. My spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Angels don't need stipulation on days because angels is infinite power and they live for eternity. How about that? So the Most High put stipulation on man days to 120 years. These can't be angels, man. These can't be no fallen down angels like they portray Hollywood in the Christian community. Okay? I know this is not pursuing the Genesis chapter 6 because we're trying to get understanding of Jude. 1 and 6, but it goes hand in hand with Genesis chapter 6. There were giants in the earth in those days. Giants means Nephal in the Hebrew. When you look at giants, it means Nephil.
Strong's H 5303. Nephil. Nephil.
So Nephil would be the proper term, not giants. And that's Hebrews 53:03. When we go into Hebrews 53:03 concerning the field, it says giants, the Nephilim. Okay. Now what does that mean? Giants pursuant to the Nephilim. Okay. Now we need to go back up, and it says it came from Hebrew 53:07. So when we click in, it came from Hebrew 53:07. It says Nephal. Right? Let's pronounce it.
Strong's H 5307. Nephal. Nephal.
That Nephilim came from Hebrew 53:07, which is Nephal. Now what Nephal means? It says to fall 318 times in the Bible. To fall down 25 times in the Bible. To cast 18 times in the Bible. To cast down 9 times in the Bible. You see that? So Nephilim, giants, in the Hebrew is Nephilim. Nephilim came from Hebrew 53:07, which means Nephal, which means to what? To fall. To be cast down. So when we go back to Genesis chapter 6, on the account of the giants, it says there was fallen ones in the earth in those days. There were certain ones that fell in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God, the Israelites today, came into the daughters of man, the sons of God right here, Israelites, came into the sons of man back then. It was known as 3 categories of man. What happened? When they came into because it ain't telling you that they produced giants. It's just telling you that basically the sons of God came into the daughters of man. It says while this was going on, there was giants in the earth in those days. There was fallen ones in the earth in those days. How did they fall? We showed you the fall, which means to fall. How did they fall? Going back to Jude 1 and 6. They left their own habitation. The angels that kept they did not keep their first estate. To not keep your first estate, to leave your own habitation is to fall, man. Okay? So there were fallen ones in the earth in those days when they did that. When the sons of God came into the daughters of man, they fell. How did they fall? They left their own habitation. They mingled the holy seed among heathenistic nations. That's all it's talking about, man. The sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty man. These men was very famous men, arts and crafts and weaponry, which were old and men of renown. He was very famous man in those days. Okay, that when the Israelites today, which was known as the sons of God, intermingled with the sons of man, daughters, these Gentile heathens today, they brought forth very skillful children. They brought forth very children that was very talented in weaponry, whether it was dancing, singing, weaponry, arts, craft. They was mighty man of renown. They was very famous children. That's all it's talking about, man. This is the first count of interracial marriage in Genesis chapter 6. So when you go back to Jude 1 and 6, we can see who the angels are. They are the messengers. Who are the messengers? The sons of God, which are the modern day Israelites. They failed. They left their own habitation. They left their first estate because they decided to indulge in interracial marriage, okay? And they decided to. This ain't talking about nothing you see right here. That's bullshit that you see right there. These sons of God decided to do what? Going outside their chosen seed and intermingle with these other nations, man. Okay. It says, he had reserved an everlasting change under darkness and to the judgment of the great day. Now, everlasting chains. This is where they get a misunderstanding, because they'll say, see, the angels are in everlasting chains bound under the earth today because of this very offense. That's not talking about none of that, man. That's not talking about none of that. We're going to show you what it's talking about. I got to crack up, man, because if you niggas thinking it's talking about what you see before you, you in error, man. Okay? You in error. I hope any Israelite camp that's teaching this bullshit is in error. Oh, the angels are ensnared. The angels are confined in a subterranean region waiting till the day of judgment. Man, that's bullshit. I'm going to tell you straight up. I don't care how you take it, man. For real, because you're going to get this verse before this day over. Now, it's not talking about what you see right here. Oh, the fallen angels, they're chained under the earth. They is restricted. He chained them down under the earth. Bullshit. Okay? Let's go back. Jude 1 and 6. The angels were kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. We already know what that is. The first estate, going back to Genesis, the beginning of time. In the beginning of time, they left their own habitation. They married other nations. They left the holy. They mingled the holy seed among the sons, the daughters of the men. Right here, the sons of God mingled their seeds among the sons, daughters. Okay, of men. Interracial marriage. That's how they left their habitation. Pursuing the Jude 1 and 6. It's saying he had reserved them in everlasting chains for doing that. Now, is it this bullshit right here? Is it that? Okay, let's see, can we find something else about angels being chained? Well, this is the best illustration right here. Is it talking about this? No. So what is it talking about? Don't worry, you're going to get the understanding. First of all, to understand this, is it talking about chains, literally? Is it talking about metal chains, metallic chains? Okay, iron devices. Is it talking about chains such with several links upon it? Let me show you something. I'm going to type in chains. Is it talking about these chains? Because it said that. Is it talking about that? Chains such as this? Chains such as those? Chains such as those? Chains such as this? Is it talking about that? Let's understand. Let's go into the interlinear pursuing Jude 1 and 6 and get an understanding behind chains. Okay. Now we're going into chains. Now we're going to say change in the Greek, which is 1199, which some may say 1199. Okay.
Strong's G 1199. Desmas. Desmas.
Desmas is how you would say chains. Okay, that's how you would say chains. I want you to see something, brothers and sisters. Desmas is how you would pronounce chains in the Greek. And you see right there, it says to bond 15 times in the Bible. It says to band 3 times in the Bible. To string 1 time in the Bible and change 1 time. So you know what? What is it talking about? It's talking about in reference to bands. This is not talking about in reference to chains right here. I want you to see. It's not talking about in reference to chains. Desmos in the Greek means bands. That's what it means, not chains. So when you go back to chains in the Greek, it goes back to desmos, which means bands. 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 So now we can roughly paraphrase Jude 1 and 6. And it says, he had reserved into everlasting bands on the darkness and to the judgment of the great day, not chains. Because I'm going to give you another count pursuing chains. Okay, now let's go into the man with the unclean spirit. Let's go into Mark chapter 5, verse 1. This is on Mark 5, verse 1, dealing with chains. Okay, it's talking about Yahushua, on the behalf of Yahushua, when he came on the other side of the sea into the country called the Gadarenes. Yahushua came on the other side to the land of Gadarenes. Okay, and it says in Mark 5 and 2, and when he was come out the ship, immediately there met him out of the tomb a man with an unclean spirit. So this man with a foul spirit came to Yahushua. Okay, Mark 5 and 3, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him. No, not with chains. So it says no man can bind this man that had this foul spirit within him. No man, because he had a legion of demons in him, and no man can bind him a chain. Now we showed you what bind mean in the Greek. Now bind in the Greek, okay. No, we showed you what band means a lot in the Greek. Now we're going to look at chains. Chains is helices. Helices. That's how you would say chains. If you want to say literal chains, like such as these, as you see right there, in the Greek, it would be known as helices, okay?
Strong's G 254, halusis. Halusis.
And
Thayer's Lexicon, halusis. Halusis.
Okay, and helices is actual metallic devices such as chains like this. That's how you would say chains in the Greek. You would say helices. Now we're going into it because it's G 254 in the Greek. And as you see, it says a chain, bond, by which the body or any part of it, hands, whether it be feet, is bound. So these are basically chains in the Greek. Helices is actual chains right here in the Greek, 254, such as these. I just want you to see something. Now we're going to continue on to show you that band in the Greek is not in reference to chains. Okay, now we're going to continue on. Okay, now watch this. Mark 5 and 4, because that he had been often bound with fetters of chains. Helices in the Greek, let's not forget that, which actually means chains such as these. Okay, and the chains, okay, chains such as these, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. Okay, so you can see that the man with the unclean spirit, he was bound in chains such as these. Okay, just remember that. And it's helices, as we've seen in the Greek. Now, we're gonna go all the way down. Let's see. Okay. And let's go back into the interlinears dealing with Mark 5 and 4. And let's see. Go all the way down. And I just want to show you something, brothers and sisters. So we're going to give you the second account, because this is the same story about the man with the foul spirit that was bound with chains. This is in Luke this time, because Luke chapter 8 verse 29 speaks of the same account in Mark chapter 5. So I'm trying to make a clear understanding on the difference between when you see right here, when you read in the Bible and you come across chains right here. When you come across chains, these chains goes back to how you would pronounce that in the Greek as these chains go back. How did we pronounce that in the Greek? We pronounce that as helices. So you can see those chains right there is helices in the Greek, which means literal chain like that. And right down here you see bands. Bands in the Greek would be desmos. Bands is Greek 1199 or 1199, which is desmos. Now this is pronounced as bands. So bands would be Greek 1199 desmos, and then the chains in the Greek would be helices G 254. So chains and bands are not the same. Chains is Greek 254, which is these. Okay. And then Greek 1199 or 1199 bands is desmos. So when you go back to Jude 1 and 6, it never said chains. That's what I'm trying to tell you, brothers and sisters. Don't want to confuse you. When you go back to Jude 1 and 6, chains are not supposed to be here. Bands are supposed to be there. How we know that? Because we have showed you already. Okay. See, that's not the correct term for chains. We showed you chains in the Greek was not that. Okay? We already showed you that. Chains in the Greek. This is chains in the Greek. Now, when we was going over Luke 8 and 29, talking about the man with the unclean spirit came out from oftentimes, and he was bound with chains. Chains in the Greek is halesis, which is Greek 254. Chains in the Greek is halesis, which is 254. But pursuing to Jude 1 and 6, it says, and the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he had reserved to everlasting chains. See that change right there ain't halesis. So guess what? That change right there is desmos. So it ain't never said chains. Because if it would have said chains, it would have been halesis right there. But that says desmos for this change. Now desmos is bands. Okay? Desmos is bands. 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 Band. That's what desmo, not chains. It is band. Right here. It's band. Okay? That's what it's talking about. Band. If it was chains, it would have said halesis, but it says desmos. Okay? So, when you go back and read Jude 1 and 6, it says, but they left their own habitation. He had reserved unto everlasting bands under the darkness until the judgment of the great day. The reason why they didn't want you to know it said bands right here, they put chains right here, because I'm going to give you the precept to show you that this is not referring to angels trapped down in some damn subterranean region in literal chains like this. Because if the angels was in literal chains, it would have said halesis, right? We seen in Greek that literal chains is halesis, right? So if it was literal chains such as halesis in the Greek, it would have been literal chains such as these. But we already showed you in Jude 1 and 6 that when it spoke of chains, it took you to desmos, which means bands. Now let me give you the precept so you can see what's going on here. Let me give you the precept. This is the precept of Jude 1 and 6 concerning the angels that was not in chains but in bands. We showed you that. Okay, now watch this. Such as sit in darkness. This is Psalms 107 verse 10. We're going to read down to 14 verse. Such as sit in darkness as in the shadow of death, being bound in affliction of iron. Being bound in affliction of iron. Was it this? Was it that? Hell no. We're going to show you. Psalms 107 and 11. Because they rebelled against my words. Yeah, because the sons of God in the beginning of time, they took upon other men, daughters, pursuing interracial marriage and mingled their holy seed. So Psalms 107 and 10 says, Psalms 107 and 11 says, because they have rebelled against my word. How? Interracial marriage. The words of God, and they contemned the counsel of the Most High. Psalms 107 and 12. Therefore he brought down their heart with labor. They fell down, and there was none to help them. Okay. It says Psalms 107 and 13. Then they cried unto the Most High in their trouble, and he saved them out of their distress. Okay, this is all in reference to bands. Psalms 107, 14. He brought them out of darkness. He brought them out of darkness in the shadow of death, and he broke the bands in asunder. He brought them out of shadow. He brought them out of darkness. He brought them out of darkness in the shadow of death, and he break what? The bands in asunder. Do y'all see that? Do y'all see that? I want to go to Jude 1 and 6 because I want to keep that right there, people. I want to go to Jude 1 and 6, man. And I want to, cause Jude 1 and 6 spoke about angels, the messengers, the sons of God, the Israelites before they took upon the name of Israel. They intermingled with the daughters of man. They left their habitation by interracial sex. And the Most High punished the sons of God by taking away their understanding. He took away their knowledge that they had in their first estate. In their first estate, he took away that great knowledge that they had when they knew the Most High. When they was known as sons of God, they was one step away from the Most High. They knew about the righteous order. He took away that first estate. And in the latter life to come, in the reincarnation or regeneration, they would come into a latter life not knowing a damn thing. Why? Because they left their first estate when they knew who they were. They left their own habitation when they had interracial sex with other nations, and he reserved them into everlasting chains. That everlasting chains is when he calls those people that knew righteous in the beginning of time, when he blinded them, and in the next life, he took away all that damn understanding that they had, and he made them dumb as hell in the next life to come. He took away the wisdom from them. When wisdom is taken from you, and when you grow up in darkness, that is known as everlasting chains. Now, we showed you that chains in the Greek is not the same thing as helices. Chains right here goes back to desmos, G1199. Desmos take you back to band. So when we read Psalms 107 verse 14, he brought them out of darkness in the shadow of death, and he broke the bands asunder. So that bands is in reference to desmos. So now we can read it as follows. Now to make perfect sense to you, brothers and sisters. Now when we go back to Jude 1 and 6, we're going to roughly paraphrase it so you can get understanding. And the messengers, okay, the sons of God, the Israelites in our time, which kept not their first estate in the beginning of time. They didn't keep the holy seed within their nation, but they left their own habitation. They had interracial relations with other nations. He reserved them unto everlasting change. He took away their great wisdom in the beginning when they was known as the sons of God, the messengers. He took away their great knowledge and caused them in the life to come in the regeneration to be dumb as hell. It took away all their wisdom, and when the Most High take away your wisdom, that is known as you being in everlasting change, under darkness, into judgment, until the time that they died of that great day. That's what it's talking about. How we know those everlasting chains is in reference to darkness and wisdom that the Most High would take from you for your disobedience. Chains in the Greek mean desmos, which means bands, which goes back to 107:14. He broke the bands. So Psalms 107:14 telling you that how he brought certain Israelites out of that darkness, how he would return them to that wisdom that they had long time ago, how he brought them out of that darkness, the shadow of death. Now I need to get you the precept to the shadow of death. I need to get you the precept to the darkness and the shadow of death. Here's the precept. Jeremiah 13:16. It says, give glory to the Lord Yahweh your God before he calls darkness. And before your feet, before he calls darkness, and before your feet stumble upon the dark mountains. And while you look for light, he turned it into the shadow of death and make it gross darkness. The shadow of death and gross darkness in Jeremiah 13:16 is in relations to Psalms 107 verse 14. I just want to show you this. Psalms 107 verse 14, he brought them out of the darkness. This would be in the last days when he will awaken the Israelites and bring them back into their knowledge. He brought them out of the darkness. What that darkness is in reference to, those everlasting chains. Chains goes back to desmos, which is bands, because he brought you out of that everlasting darkness. He brought you out of that stupid ass state of mind, and he was grateful enough to return you to your knowledge and your wisdom. He put you back into the truth in the last days. So that is in reference to Psalms 107:14, that he brought you out of darkness in the shadow of death, and he break the bands asunder. What is the shadow of death? The shadow of death is pursuant to what we just showed you in Jeremiah 13:16. Give glory to the Most High before he calls darkness, before he calls those chains. Okay? Pursuant to Jude 1 and 6. Give glory to the Most High before he calls everlasting chains. Okay? While you look for light, he turn it into the shadow of death and make it gross darkness. The shadow of death and gross darkness is in reference to Psalms 107:14. Right here. Same thing. Shadow of death. Right there, in darkness. Okay? That's all it's talking about. He says, and in the end time, when he will restore the Israelites back to their knowledge, he will wake some Israelites up in the end time and bring them out of those chains of darkness. It says he break their bands asunder. So he brought you out of these chains, which goes back to desmos bands. He broke the bands asunder. He brought you out of those chains, and he brought you back into remembrance. And that's why in the same chapter of Jude, in 1 and 5, he says, I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this. How would he put you in remembrance? When he break those everlasting chains, when he breaks those bands. Going back to Psalms 107 and 14. He brought them out of darkness of the shadow of death and broke the bands asunder. When he put that spirit back on you to let you see that you are Israelite and that you ought to be keeping his laws after all these damn years you was lied to. He caused that before you. He caused that darkness before you. But he was merciful enough to break the bands asunder. He was merciful enough to break those everlasting chains. He was merciful enough to put you back into remembrance, though you once knew this. So in the beginning of time, these angels which kept not their first estate, because we ain't even supposed to left the first estate. That's the reason why most of these Israelites lost sheep today, because they left the first estate. If you never left the first estate, you wouldn't be counted as a lost sheep. But you left the first estate. You left your habitation. You started sexing other Gentile nations of people. And guess what? For your payback for that, he caused you to go off in everlasting chains, everlasting bands. But in the last day, on the darkness, in the last day, he will bring you out of that darkness, pursuing the Psalms 107:14. He will bring you out of the shadow of death and darkness. He will break the bands, and he will do what? Pursuing the Jude 1 and 5. Therefore, put you in remembrance, though you once knew this. So it don't have a goddamn thing with angels being changed under the earth, man. So I hope you was edified, and I know this lesson was long, but it's for your edification. And if you got a short attention span, I don't know what to say, but this is definitely for your edification, so you can stop believing in this nonsense that you see right here and that Christianity pushes. You can stop believing in this fallen angel nonsense. It's nonsense. Okay? So, man, like I said, I could go on and on because there's a lot of things to bring out, man, pursuing this topic, but it has been approximately a minute. I don't know why I say a minute. An hour and 11 minutes. I mean, like I said, so I hope you was edified with that. Brothers and sisters, till next time, this is Shabar Judah Israel concerning Solid Foundation Israelite Academies. Until I see you next time, Tawab Yawam, Akyam, and the Wayam, and have a nice day through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Shalom.